The decision to rebrand your casino was right. The execution went a little wrong. This is more common than the alternative, and it usually happens in three predictable places. Every one of them is fixable, but only before it happens. So let's make sure it doesn't happen to you. Welcome to Drivetime Marketing. Hi there, and welcome back to Drivetime Marketing, the show where we help casino marketers turn strategy into action and insights into impact. I'm Julia Carcamo. In today's episode, we are continuing our conversation about rebranding your casino. Last week in part one, we walked through the Jules rules of branding, the 5 principles I apply to every brand project. If you missed it, the short version is this. A brand isn't a logo. A brand is how guests think about you when they arrive, how they interact with your team and your systems, and how they feel when they leave, which means branding done well requires a different kind of discipline. Strategic before tactical, operational before visual, and internal before external. If that framework interests you, go back and listen to part one when you have about 15 minutes. It sets everything up that we're doing today. Today, we are going to get practical because knowing the framework is one thing. Applying it in a real rebrand process is another. And here's where I see most regional operators go a little off track. Let's assume the decision to rebrand was right. The execution, though, went wrong. This is more common than the alternative, and it usually happens in 3 predictable places. Failure mode 1, the destination playbook gets applied to a regional property. Most agencies that work in branding who work in hospitality were trained on destination accounts. The playbooks they run, the timelines they propose, the design directions they pursue, all of it is shaped by the properties with national audiences, massive capital, and dramatically different competitive dynamics. When that playbook gets applied to a 300-mile radius regional property, the outputs don't fit. The brand drifts toward generic, the operational work gets underweighted, and the community connection, which is the regional property's actual competitive advantage, gets treated as a constraint to manage rather than an asset to build on. Failure mode number 2, the visual work starts before the strategic work finishes. Most rebrand sequences are wrong. Logo concepts get presented before the brand strategy is locked, before the audience grounding is complete, before the operational implications are understood. Once visuals are on the table, every conversation gets pulled toward design preferences. Leadership debates color palettes, marketing debates typography. The strategic platform that should have been driving the design decisions never gets fully aligned, and the visual identity ends up reflecting whoever had the strongest design opinion in the room. Failure mode number 3, the internal launch gets compressed. Marketing calendars and capital schedules set external launch dates. Internal launch dates gets whatever time is left over. Staff training gets compressed to a 1-day session before the public reveal. The new brand promise gets pushed to the floor before the floor has even been given the tools, the language, or authority to deliver it. Guests show up expecting the new brand, the staff is still describing the property the old way, and the disconnect undoes months of strategic work in the first week. The right rebrand for a regional casino doesn't look like a scaled down destination rebrand. It's a different kind of work, sequenced differently with different priorities at each stage. After the break, we're going to talk about the 6-step sequence that makes a casino rebrand actually work, plus what a real rebrand costs, both when you get it right and when you don't. This August, Casino Marketing Bootcamp has 2 very different summer experiences, and the right choice depends on what your team needs most right now. If your property is heading into budget season, calendar planning, or a bigger strategic reset, Midwest in Tulsa is built for you. This is the planning room. We'll work on the decisions that will shape your 2027 marketing plan: brand, promotions, VIP events, segmentation, mail, and the calendar itself. It's a strong fit for marketing directors, VPs, GMs, and the team members who need to step back and see the whole picture and leave with clearer priorities and a practical roadmap. A few weeks later, Casino Marketing Bootcamp in Des Moines goes deeper into one of the biggest performance drivers in casino marketing: how we communicate with players. This one is for the people responsible for lists, offers, email, mail, database strategy, reinvestment, reactivation, and campaign results. If your team is asking, are we sending the right offer to the right player through the right channel at the right time? This is the room for that work. So which one should you choose? Well, you can send your broader leadership and planning team to Midwest if you need alignment, direction, and a stronger calendar. And send your database, CRM, direct marketing, or campaign team to Des Moines if you need every list, offer, and dollar to work harder. And if both challenges sound familiar, well, come to both. Use Tulsa to build a plan, use Des Moines to sharpen the engine that brings that plan to life. Either way, this is not about sitting in a ballroom taking notes. It's about doing the work with coaches and casino marketers who understand your world. Welcome back. Now let's talk about the sequence. The order of operations matters more than any single decision in the rebrand process. Here's the sequence that I think works. Step 1, strategy and positioning. What is the rebrand for? What does the property need to stand for that it doesn't stand for now? Who's the target audience? What's the competitive landscape really like? This is the foundation. Settle it before anything else moves. Step number 2 is internal alignment. Leadership, operations, marketing, key stakeholders all aligned on the strategic direction. Not aligned on the logo, aligned on the brand promise, the audience, the positioning, and the operational implications before anyone sees a single design concept. Step number 3 are the operational implications. What changes about how the property runs to deliver on the new brand? Service standards, training programs, vendor selection, hiring criteria, the capital plan for environmental updates. This is the work that determines whether the brand can actually be delivered on the floor. Now, step 4 is visual identity development. Now the design work begins. Logo, design system, voice and tone, environmental design, digital expression. The strategic platform drives this work, not the other way around. Step 5 is internal launch. And this is months of staff preparation, training programs, language and tools, the authority to deliver, recognition for staff who exemplify the new brand. The internal launch is over when the staff can articulate the brand promise as confidently as marketing can. Now, step 6 is the external launch. It's a coordinated rollout to guests, market, and community. By this point, the property is ready to deliver what marketing is promising. Most failed rebrands invert the sequence. They start with the logo because the logo feels like progress. They do the strategy work in parallel with the design work, which means the strategy never really leads. They compress the operational and internal work because the external launch date is fixed. The sequence I just walked you through is harder to follow. It requires holding off on the visible work until the invisible work is done. It's also the only sequence that produces a rebrand that takes. Which brings us to money. For planning purposes, regional rebrand investments fall into 3 rough tiers. There's visual refresh. It's about a 6-month timeline. It means your brand positioning is solid, but the visual expression needs to catch up. It's a modest investment focused on a design system, priority signage, and digital assets. And an internal team can carry most of the implementation. A moderate repositioning is more like a 12-month timeline. Most regional casino rebrands land here. It includes meaningful research, design system development, environmental updates, staff training, and a coordinated public launch. This requires external partners and can be structured within most regional property budgets. Now, a complete repositioning, this could be 18 months or more. For properties undergoing fundamental transformation, new ownership, major expansion, complete market repositioning, significant capital investment across research, design, environment, training, and launch. Now, actual dollar figures depend on your property size, scope, vendor mix, and the gap between your current and target state. Specifics belong in the working conversations, not in a podcast episode. And because the wrong specifics in the wrong place pigeonhole a project before the strategy work has even started. But here's the conversation I actually want to have. Everybody wants to talk about what a successful rebrand costs. The more important conversation is what a failed one costs. A rebrand that misses the mark doesn't just lose the budget, it costs market position. It costs internal morale. It costs the credibility marketing needs the next time it asks leadership for capital. We've seen properties spend significant capital on a rebrand that landed flat and then spend years recovering from it. The cost of getting it right is real. The cost of getting it wrong is greater. And the cost of not addressing a brand problem when you have one is greater still. That's how you rebrand a casino successfully. The Jules Rules gives you the framework. The strategic sequence gives you the order of operations. And staying honest about what it costs, both the price of getting it right and the price of getting it wrong, keeps the work grounded. If you're sitting with a rebrand decision right now, I'd love to talk you through it. My rebrand kickstart call is 30 minutes. There's no pitch, no commitment, just a working conversation about where you are and what makes sense next. I'll put a link in the show notes. If you got value from this two-part series, share it with someone in the casino business. If you're not already subscribed to the show, hit that button. It helps more casino operators find us. Thanks for joining me on this week's edition of Drivetime Marketing.